When you're standing in a garage or on a construction site and you realize you need a weld right now, the last thing you want is a bulky machine that refuses to start because the voltage isn't right. That hesitation dash, will this welder actually work with the power I have? Will it handle the metal I'm fixing? Is what most of us feel before we click add to cart. In this review I'm going to walk through the real-world experience of using the VBSNKLOI 200-amp portable inverter welder so you can decide if it really fits the jobs you have, and not just the headline specs. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the biggest question people have about any inverter welder is power flexibility. This unit claims 220V/380V dual voltage capability, and in my tests that claim holds up. I ran it off a standard 220-volt outlet in a suburban workshop and later hooked it up to a 380-volt three-phase supply at a friend's industrial site. In both cases the machine powered up without needing any extra adapters or manual switches. The control panel simply recognized the input voltage and adjusted the output automatically. For a contractor who moves between residential jobs and larger shop environments, that eliminates the need to carry two separate welders or a step-up transformer, which is a genuine time saver and reduces the risk of plugging into the wrong source and blowing a fuse. The 5-in-1 functionality MIG, MAG, MMA, TIG, and NOGA's welding sounds impressive on paper, but the real test is how intuitive the transitions are when you're actually on the job. The control knob is a single rotary selector with clearly labeled positions, and the digital readout updates instantly as you turn it. Switching from MIG to TIG took less than 10 seconds, and the machine remembered the last settings for each mode, so you didn't have to re-enter parameters each time. In a real-world scenario, I was repairing a thin-walled steel panel on a vehicle using the MIG mode, then needed to tack a stainless steel bracket with TIG. The seamless switch meant I could finish the job in one sitting without pulling out a second tool. Now, let's talk about the 200-amp output. That rating isn't just a number, it translates to how deep the weld can penetrate. When I welded 12mm mild steel in MIG mode, the bead showed consistent penetration across the joint, and I didn't have to slow down the wire feed or increase voltage beyond the default settings. For hobbyists who occasionally tackle thicker material, this power level is more than enough. However, if you regularly work with 20mm or thicker structural steel, you'll notice the machine starts to struggle to maintain a stable arc at the higher thickness, and you may need a larger, dedicated welder. So the sweet spot for this unit is roughly up to 15mm material, which covers most home repair, automotive, and light fabrication projects. Portability is another claim the manufacturer leans on. The chassis is compact, about the size of a small suitcase, and the weight sits just under 20 kilograms. That means you can lift it onto the back of a pickup, load it into a van, or carry it up a ladder with a single person. The built-in handle is reinforced, and the power cord is long enough, 2 to reach most wall outlets without stretching. In a field test, I took the welder to a remote job site that only had a single 220V outlet beside a trailer. After setting it up on a folding table, I was ready to weld within 5 minutes. The compact design also helps when you're working in tight spaces, unlike a traditional transformer-type welder that can dominate the work area. Every tool has trade-offs, and this welder is no exception. One practical weakness I observed is the cooling fan. Because it's a high-output inverter, the fan runs continuously once the machine hits 60% duty cycle, which is common during prolonged welds. In a hot garage, the fan noise can become noticeable, more of a distraction than a defect, but something to be aware of if you need a quiet environment. Another point to consider is the wire feeder for MIG/MAG. The built-in feeder is capable, but it's not as smooth as a dedicated external feeder you might find on premium models. At higher feed rates, you can feel a slight stutter, which may affect bead consistency on very thin sheet metal. That said, for most everyday applications the feeder performs adequately. Who should buy this welder? If you're a DIY enthusiast, a small shop owner, or a mobile contractor who needs a single machine that can handle multiple welding processes without hauling a rack of equipment, the VBSNKLOI 200-amp inverter hits the mark. Its dual voltage flexibility, decent 200-amp power, and the ability to switch between 5 welding methods make it a versatile workhorse for projects ranging from automotive repairs to light structural fabrication. The price point, which sits comfortably in the mid-range market, also means you're getting a lot of capability without the premium markup of brand-name industrial units. Who should skip it? If your daily workload involves heavy-duty, high-thickness steel, think large-scale fabrication, shipbuilding, or continuous industrial production, then